Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard. I'm Lauren Feldman, and I'm here with Ben Knepler, co-founder of True Places, which makes portable outdoor chairs. Welcome back, Ben. Although I'm sorry it's not under happier circumstances. I gather you've decided to suspend production of your portable chairs.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me back. It's always good to speak to you, but I too wish it was under better circumstances.
So, Ben, I'd love to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of the past year and how you've wound up at this place. Initially, for all the usual reasons, you and your co-founder chose to manufacture the chairs in China. Last year, you saw the writing on the wall, and as you told us the last time you were on the podcast here, you moved production to Cambodia. It was, as you explained, not an easy or an inexpensive process. Maybe you could start by reminding us, why did you pick Cambodia, and what was the tariff situation at the time that made it seem promising?
Sure. Well, even just to back up a tiny bit, you described it as a choice to manufacture in China, but really it wasn't a choice. The entire industry is in China for what we do. So as a reminder, we're a startup, but we started the business to create a brand and a company for what we're calling the modern outdoors. We realized we were spending a huge amount of time in our lives outdoors and outside, not necessarily going on a huge trip somewhere, but in all kinds of occasions like the sidelines of kids' sports games and in the backyard fire pit and concerts in the park and all of these types of occasions. And most people are just using old camping gear for these situations. So our first product is a portable chair, but the nature, the materials used and the nature of the manufacturing and assembly of that is very kind of specific. And the entire industry of that manufacturing had moved to China over the past many decades. So when we started the business, even though we do everything else in the US, we do all of our marketing, but design, engineering, warehousing, shipping, logistics, customer service, basically our entire business is here, except for the manufacturing and assembly of our product. So we had no other option but to be in China when we started. We've been facing tariffs from the first Trump administration of 25%, which had been just an anchor on the entire business, weighing us down and not letting us grow, even though we know there's a huge market opportunity for what we're doing. So from the very start, we had been trying to figure out ways to avoid that tariff. We managed to find finally a viable solution outside of China in Cambodia in the middle of last year. So in mid-2024, we made the decision to move our entire manufacturing operation from China to Cambodia. And that's not something that is very quick, easy, certainly not for a startup, or costless. So financially, it was very expensive. We actually took on a lot of debt in order to make that manufacturing transition happen. And we'd been doing that over the past 12 months. When we made that decision last year, there were zero tariffs on goods coming from Cambodia. So that was a big part from a financial perspective, of being able to make that decision. So fast forward to this year, which I think was your real question. On April 2nd, we were in the middle of our first production run in our new factory. So getting started up in a new factory is a huge process. I actually flew out to Cambodia to be there for the startup of our production. We were in the middle of it on April 2nd when the announcement was there would be 49% tariffs on Cambodia. So over the past few months, we've gone from 0% tariffs to 49%. A week later, it was 10% for 90 days. And then in early July, letters went out from the Trump administration saying it would be 36% for Cambodia. And then last night we just heard that it's 19%. So we've got no idea what it's really going to be in a few months' time. The timelines that we're dealing with are obviously much longer than the political news cycle. And so we have to make decisions that to whether to produce or not, and we won't get that product for another 3 or 4 months. And so that's when you have to actually pay the tariff payments. And so a few weeks ago, we had to decide whether we were going to roll into our next production run as planned, or whether we couldn't really do that. And it was pretty clear to us that we couldn't produce at that point. And we have some seasonality to our business. We're an outdoor products company, and so even if we started producing today, we wouldn't get any new product in to the US before the end of our season. And so for many reasons, we had to make the decision that we wouldn't produce again, at least not this year.
So had you gone forward and produced, you would have had to pay for the production. You would have had to pay the tariffs when the chairs arrived in this country, and then you would have had to sit on those chairs through the off season until you could sell them when the season began again next year. Is that right?
That's correct. Also, I should note that there are a lot of other indirect effects of the tariff situation that people probably don't realize. But when we were in the middle of our first production, which was a small run, it was our first run in our new factory. There was this announcement that it would be 49%. We literally called up our factory that night and said stop producing because we can't afford to bring that product into the US. A week later, there was a change of mind from the administration, and there was this window of 90 days where it would be 10%, which is still very difficult for us, but we could at least finish our production. So we called the factory back up that night and said, let's restart production. It's not something that you can just flick a switch and do. And so that caused a lot of delays. At the same time, everyone who could was trying to get products from Asia to the US. And so shipping rates and all the costs to do with transportation and freight skyrocketed as well. We had to pay, on top of those skyrocketing rates, we had to pay extra in order to actually transport our product from Cambodia through Vietnam in order to get on a boat that we could find space on that would get to the US in time for the end of the 90 days. And normally we send half of our inventory to the West Coast and half to the East Coast. There wasn't time for that. We had to send everything to the West Coast, which has caused a lot of additional costs for domestic shipping for us. And then on top of that, when it arrived, we finally got it in before what was going to be the end of the 90 days. At port, we didn't hear anything for a while. And then we got a message saying that we had been, quote unquote, randomly selected for customs inspections. And so our inventory was delayed then. We don't get told what's going on. You don't know how long it's going to take. And then once that was finally released, we then also get a bill for the pleasure of that inspection. So all of that just adds up to an enormous amount of additional costs that are indirectly caused by the tariffs as well. And that's really, really difficult for us as a small business and a startup.
I can't even imagine how discouraging that must be. So just to recap the scoring, on April 2nd, you were hit with 49%. A week later, it went down to 10%. Is that what you said?
Correct.
And then in July, letters went out saying 36%?
Correct. Yeah. So instead of the end of the 90 days, no one knew what was going to happen. But a few days before the end of that 90 days, that we had scrambled to get product into the US in time for. Instead of that, the Trump administration just sent out these letters to dozens of countries saying, actually, sort of forget about that. You're going to face we're going to put whatever tariff it is on products coming from your country.
And was that effective immediately, or was that supposedly going to be the rate at when that interim period ended?
No, so they, instead of the 90 days was meant to end July 9th, and those letters said it would end August 1st. And from August 1st, whatever number was in the letter would be the new tariff rate.
So you thought it was going to be 36% going forward at that point?
Correct.
And that's when you made the decision to suspend production?
Correct.
Now we're recording this on Friday, August 1st. And it was, as you referred to, it was announced just last night that the rate going forward is going to be 19%. Is that an amount that, had you known it was going to be 19%, you could have proceeded with production?
It would be very difficult. So I'd make sort of 2 points related to how we're thinking about it. One is 19% is still an incredibly high tariff.
Sure.
Like, we made the decision to move to Cambodia based on 0% tariff. So going from 0 to 19% is an incredibly big change in like overall trade policy and protectionism that we have to pay. So that would be very difficult. We'd need to figure out other ways to financially make it work. We'd almost certainly need to raise our prices and various other things. But it would be very difficult. I think the equally challenging aspect of it is that last night it was announced that it would be 19%, but who knows what it'll be tomorrow. A few weeks ago, it was announced that it would be 36%. And that was until last night. In that intervening time, there's been a dispute between international relations dispute between Cambodia and Thailand that President Trump tried to get involved with by threatening different tariff rates on those countries. And so we're seeing tariffs being used for international diplomacy or complete reasons that are completely unrelated to the trade of products. And so it's very difficult to have any kind of confidence that even if we could make 19% work, that would actually be the rate when we bring our product into the country.
So as you sit here today, do you have a sense of where you go from here? Are you thinking of trying to find somewhere else to manufacture? Are you hoping to wait it out? Do you have any idea what you hope to do next?
Yeah, there's nowhere else to manufacture. I mean, we've already invested a huge amount in making the transition from China to Cambodia. The manufacturing of these kinds of products just doesn't exist in the US. And it's taken us the last 12 months in order to move our manufacturing.
Ben, let me stop you there for a second. When you say these kinds of products are not manufactured in the U.S., what exactly are you referring to by these kinds of products?
Yeah, so I want to be a little bit careful because I know about our very specific category of portable outdoor chairs that is a combination of soft and hard goods and has complicated mechanical engineering. For us, like there's no option to manufacture in the US, certainly not at any kind of scale and any kind of cost that would be viable. But even before you get to the cost question, it really doesn't exist. And part of that's related to how the the supply chains for the materials, and also the expertise of this manufacturing just doesn't exist at the moment in the US. I know that the same is true for many other categories. I don't want to speak for any of them like specifically, because I think people make very broad generalizations like, oh, manufacturing will be coming back to America, or you should just make this in America, or this type of manufacturing can or can't. So it's very we just need to be really careful about those generalizations. It can be very specific. However, the tariffs and the trade policy are just completely broad policies that essentially apply to everyone, with a few notable exceptions where there's been kind of the political will to make that happen.
Got it. So I interrupted you. I had asked you, do you have any idea where you go from here? Do you know?
Yeah, so we're currently selling through the remaining inventory that we have in the US from our first production. We know that we're not going to be able to get any more in this year, which is a huge blow to the business. We're not sure if we'll be able to continue the way that we are as an independent startup, and so we're trying to figure it out. We're having a lot of conversations with a lot of people to understand what the potential options might be, if there's a way that we can potentially join forces with others to create kind of more scale, or to at least be able to weather the storm. If we're able to get some kind of investment in order to in effect kind of wait it out ourselves. But myself and my co-founder we've stopped paying ourselves. Not that we paid ourselves much. We're really in it to grow a startup to a much larger scale. But that obviously creates difficulties on the personal side. So we'll probably need to find other ways to get some personal income and other employment. But we're not giving up. That's for sure. This has been a dream that we started a few years ago. It's really the American dream. We knew that we would face a lot of challenges as a startup, and we've overcome many challenges. We didn't think that our biggest challenge would be government policy from our own government, but this is where we are.
Well, I'm glad to hear you're not giving up. You mentioned that you had to take on debt to move operations from China to Cambodia. I assume that was to pay for the tooling and maybe move equipment from China over. Are you going to be able to service that debt?
It's going to be difficult. We're going to have to figure out a way to either refinance it or kind of structure that in some way. But it's going to be very difficult because we're in a difficult situation, but it's a similar situation to so many others, and so we're not sure yet.
When you say so many others, are you basing that on what you read, or are you talking to other companies and trying to figure out what they're doing and seeing if there's anything for you to learn from their experiences?
Yeah, I speak to a lot of other founders, other small business owners. So certainly anyone who is of a small scale is finding it incredibly difficult. I actually went to DC a few weeks ago to speak to Congress about tariffs, together with a delegation of a few other small business owners from around the country, and it was great to meet them. But hearing their stories, we all had our own versions of the same story, that basically that the tariffs are killing us. And so I'm in touch with a lot of others from that perspective. And then, speaking to people in our industry, we know that it's incredibly challenging.
You said that you may be looking for other ways to bring in some personal income. Obviously, you still have your own personal bills to pay as well. Are you thinking of taking another job, or what kind of things are you thinking about there?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't had time to actually think about that side of things properly. But I don't know. We'll have to see. There's obviously a limit. My priority is dealing with True Places and trying to get our business into a better situation. So that's what I'm really focused on. But there's a limit to how long we can completely focus on that without thinking about that personal side.
All right. Well, I think you said you still have some inventory. If anybody listening to this is interested, it's still possible to buy a chair?
Yes. This might be one of the last opportunities to do so. Trueplaces.com is our website. So TRUE places PLACES.com. And you'll see them there. Whatever remaining inventory we have.
All right. Ben Knepler is co-founder of True Places, which until recently was manufacturing portable outdoor chairs in Cambodia. Ben, I really look forward to having you back on when you've figured out how to restart production somehow. But in the meantime, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. I hope that next time I'll be back, we'll be in the midst of our next production.
That would be great. All right. Have a great week, everybody.